All right, let's talk about one of the biggest puzzles in endurance sports, the marathon. It's not just about toughing it out for 26.2 miles. It's about cracking the code. And that secret? It's not just in your legs, it's hidden in the data. So today, we're going to unravel the science of perfect pacing.
So let's kick things off with a number that might actually shock you. Get this, according to research, a staggering 92% of all marathon runners, I'm talking everyone from first-timers to pros, get their pacing wrong. That is more than 9 out of 10 runners who toe the starting line.
And what happens when that pacing goes wrong? Well, you get the one thing every single runner dreads, hitting the wall. You know, that moment your body just decides it's done and the finish line suddenly feels like it's in another state. It's a very real physiological event, and it almost always comes from starting out just a tiny bit too fast. But what if there was a way to avoid all that? A strategy backed by hard data. When Kelvin Kiptum absolutely smashed the world record, analysts all said the same thing. It wasn't just raw talent. It was the masterful execution of a specific strategy, one that the numbers prove is the key to your fastest marathon ever.
Okay, so to really understand how the elites pull this off, we need to first get clear on what pacing actually is, because it's not just about running at a certain speed, it's a really complex puzzle of managing your energy.
When you boil it all down, a marathon is really a fuel management problem. Your body has a limited supply of its best fuel, called glycogen. Pacing is the art of sipping from that fuel tank, not chugging it. You have to make sure you don't burn through everything in the first half, leaving you running on fumes for those last critical miles.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the exact strategy the pros use and look at the data that proves it works. This isn't about feelings or just gut instinct. This is a tactical, calculated approach to running a race.
So here's the big secret, and it's gonna sound kind of backward at first. You run the first half of the race at a controlled, maybe even what feels like a conservative pace. Then, in the second half, you start to pick it up, finishing faster than you started. It feels wrong, but trust me, the numbers do not lie.
And the proof? Well, it's right here in the data. Kiptum's world record wasn't just a display of speed, it was a textbook perfect negative split. But here's the best part. This isn't just for the elites. For regular runners like us, studies show that getting this strategy right can shave 2 to 3 full minutes off your finish time compared to starting too fast. That's huge.
So, why on earth does starting slower make you faster overall? To get that, we need to pop the hood and look at the key physiological numbers that really dictate your performance on race day.
Let's start with something called lactate threshold. The easiest way to think about this is as your personal sustainable red line. It's the fastest you can go for a long time before your body starts producing more metabolic gunk, lactate, than it can clean up. The higher your threshold is, the faster your marathon pace can be.
Now this chart shows you exactly what I'm talking about. Look at the bottom. That's your running speed. As it goes up, you can see your heart rate and your blood lactate also go up. But see that sharp bend in the red line? That's labeled anaerobic threshold. That's the cliff. That's your lactate threshold. The entire game of marathon pacing is about staying just under that cliff for as long as you possibly can.
Okay, so check out the raw numbers here. This table shows the difference between an elite and an untrained runner. First, you've got VO2 max. Just think of that as the size of your engine. The elite runners is way bigger. But the really critical number is in that second row. An elite can run at about 82% of their max capacity without going over that lactate cliff. An untrained runner, they're redline at only about 76% of their max. So training to push that percentage up is how you get faster for longer.
Now this table is where it really clicks. For a highly trained athlete, going all out at 100% is only going to last for about 8 minutes. But look what happens when they drop the intensity to just 80%. Suddenly, their time to exhaustion shoots up to 2 hours or more. This is the math behind why pacing matters so much. A slightly slower start keeps you in that 80% zone, which is what lets you go the full distance.
So you're probably thinking, this is great, but I don't have access to a sports science lab. Well, guess what? You don't need one. The technology to track all these metrics is probably already on your wrist.
Seriously, your modern GPS watch is a little lab. It can give you a pretty solid estimate of your VO2 max, it can pinpoint the exact heart rate for your lactate threshold, and it can even measure your power output in real time. This is amazing. It means you can train smarter, making sure you're always in the right zone to build that endurance and push your threshold higher.
And hey, if you're just starting out, don't let all these numbers scare you.
There's a super simple, super effective way to begin called the 30-30 plan. The whole point is just consistency and getting time on your feet. For 30 days, just move for 30 minutes. Walk, jog, mix it up. The goal is time, not distance. This builds that essential aerobic base that everything else is built on.
So, building that engine is step one. But even with the strongest body and the best data, there's one more variable that can override everything. We've talked about the engine and the fuel, but now we need to talk about the computer that controls it all, your brain.
This brings us to something called the central governor theory, and it's a fascinating idea. It suggests that what we think of as pure physical exhaustion, our muscles giving out, isn't what's actually happening. It's our brain hitting the emergency brake to protect us.
The pioneer of this theory, Dr. Tim Noakes, explains it like this. Your brain is constantly running calculations. It's looking at how hard you're working, how much fuel you have left, how far you still have to go. And based on all that, it decides how many of your muscle fibers it's going to let you use, always holding some in reserve just in case. It's a survival mechanism.
And that leaves us with this one last really interesting question. Training obviously makes your body stronger, but a smart, data-driven pacing strategy does something else. It gives your brain confidence. It proves to your brain that you have a plan, you're in control, and you're not in any danger. So is your next personal best really a fight against your body's limits, or is it all just a negotiation with that central governor in your head?